You may know Versailles for its mirrors, its fountains, its gold. But I did not transform a hunting lodge into the greatest palace in Europe simply because I loved beauty. I built something far more useful. A place where France's most powerful nobles would compete for the privilege of standing near me. A place where a glance could create a fortune, and an absence could destroy one. A place where even the simple act of handing me a shirt became an honor worth fighting for. My name is Louis XIV. They called me the Sun King, and Versailles became the stage on which I placed myself at the center of France. But to understand why I needed such a place, you must first understand what happened to me when I was a child. I became King of France in 1643. I was 4 years old. Of course, I did not truly govern. My mother, Anne of Austria, ruled as regent, while Cardinal Mazarin guided the government. But France was not peaceful. Taxes were heavy. Powerful nobles resented the authority of the crown. Judges in the Parliament of Paris challenged royal policies. Then in 1648, rebellion erupted. It became known as the Fronde. I was still a child, but I remember what instability felt like. Barricades appeared in Paris, crowds filled the streets, powerful aristocrats changed sides, formed alliances, raised armies and challenged the government that ruled in my name. And in January 1649, my family fled Paris. Imagine that. I was King of France. And yet I had to escape my own capital. That lesson never completely left me. A king surrounded by ambitious nobles was not necessarily a powerful king. If those nobles possessed their own armies, their own clients, their own regional influence, they could become dangerous. I would not spend my reign wondering when they might challenge me again. When I grew old enough to rule for myself, I intended to make certain that the monarchy stood above them all. Cardinal Mazarin died in 1661. I was 22. For most of my life, France had expected a chief minister to stand between the king and the machinery of government. Richelieu had done it for my father. Mazarin had done it during my youth. So my ministers naturally expected me to appoint another. I did not. From that moment, I declared that I would govern personally. I attended councils. I examined reports. I demanded that ministers answer directly to me. Men such as Jean-Baptiste Colbert helped reorganize finances, commerce, and royal administration. Louvois helped strengthen the army. Across the provinces, royal officials helped extend the authority of the central government. But politics was only part of the problem. There was another force I had to master: the nobility. I could punish them. I could exclude them. But there was a more elegant solution. I could make them need me. And for that, I needed a stage. My father, Louis XIII, had owned a modest hunting lodge at Versailles. It stood southwest of Paris, surrounded by woods, fields, and marshy ground. It was hardly the obvious place from which to govern the most powerful kingdom in Europe. Perhaps that was precisely what attracted me. Paris was crowded, political, and unpredictable. Versailles was different. Here I had space. Here I could build. Here I could create a world almost from nothing. After Mazarin died in 1661, I began major works at Versailles. At first, I did not announce that I was creating a new center of government. The old hunting lodge remained at the heart of the project. Around it, however, something extraordinary began to grow. I summoned some of the greatest artistic talents in France. Louis Leveau worked on the architecture. André Lenôtre shaped the gardens. Charles Lebrun directed much of the decoration. Later, Jules Hardouin Mansart would transform the palace on an even greater scale. Everywhere the message was the same. Nature itself appeared disciplined. Trees followed geometric lines. Water was forced into fountains. Paths stretched outward from the palace in perfect order. Nothing seemed accidental. That was exactly how I wanted monarchy to appear. A king could demonstrate power through armies. But armies were not the only language of power. Architecture could speak too. Versailles became enormous. New wings appeared. Apartments multiplied. Gardens expanded. Fountains, statues, and avenues stretched across the estate. Construction continued for decades. In 1678, work began on what would become the most famous room of all, the Hall of Mirrors. Imagine entering it during my reign. Light from the windows crossed the gallery and struck hundreds of mirrors. Paintings above celebrated military victories and royal achievements. Silver, marble, painted ceilings and reflected candlelight surrounded visiting courtiers and ambassadors. This was not modest decoration, it was political theatre. Foreign diplomats were meant to understand the wealth and ambition of France. French nobles were meant to understand something else. There was only one true centre of this world: me. But Versailles could not control anyone while the nobility remained scattered across France. So I brought the court to Versailles. On May 6, 1682, Versailles became the principal residence of my court and the headquarters of my government. Paris remained the capital of France, but political life increasingly revolved around Versailles. Ministers worked there, royal councils met there, foreign ambassadors came there, and thousands of people flowed through the palace and its surrounding buildings. Most importantly, the greatest nobles of France wanted to be there. Why? Because power was there. They wanted apartments, pensions, military commands, government offices, invitations, titles, access, and almost all of those things ultimately depended upon royal favor. A nobleman living proudly on his distant estate might possess independence. A nobleman living at Versailles spent his days wondering whether I had noticed him. That difference mattered. I did not need to imprison the aristocracy. I gave them something more attractive than freedom: access to the king. At Versailles, almost nothing around me was entirely private. My morning began with ceremony. At roughly 8:30, my first valet awakened me. Doctors entered. Favoured courtiers were admitted. Then came the stages of the royal laver, my formal rising. Some men were allowed to enter earlier than others, some could approach closer than others, some might help with an article of clothing. Those distinctions seem ridiculous today. They were not ridiculous at Versailles. They represented rank, access, favour. A man allowed to perform a small personal service for the king could demonstrate publicly that he stood close to power. And everyone noticed. Later I crossed my apartments surrounded by courtiers. I attended mass, I met councils, I ate, I walked in the gardens. At night came another ceremony as I retired. Again and again the court revolved around my movements. The system worked because the nobles themselves participated enthusiastically. They watched me, but I watched them too. Who appeared regularly, who was absent, who had spoken with whom, who seemed loyal, who hoped for advancement. At Versailles, simply being seen could become a political act. People sometimes call Versailles a golden cage for the nobility. There is truth in that image. But it can also be misleading. I did not drag every nobleman in France into the palace and lock the doors. Many came because court offered opportunities they could not easily obtain elsewhere. A successful career in the army or royal administration remained important. But visibility at court mattered enormously. A pension might depend upon favour, a marriage could benefit from royal approval, an appointment might transform a family's future, an apartment close to mine could become a sign of extraordinary status. And so nobles competed, not primarily by building private armies against me, but by serving me, by entertaining me, by appearing at the correct ceremony, by dressing correctly, by mastering etiquette, by securing introductions, by becoming useful. Their ambition did not disappear. I redirected it. Instead of asking, "How can I challenge the king?" the most ambitious increasingly asked, "How can I make the king notice me?" That was a much safer question for the monarchy. Even the physical layout of Versailles reinforced hierarchy. The most prestigious spaces lay closest to the royal family. The palace itself functioned like a map of status. Distance mattered, doors mattered, rooms mattered, permission mattered. Then there were the celebrations: music, opera, ballet, fireworks, hunting, feasts, garden festivals. I understood spectacle. As a young man, I even danced publicly. The image of Apollo, god of the sun, became closely associated with my reign. That symbolism was deliberate. Just as planets appeared to revolve around the sun, the court was encouraged to revolve around its monarch. That did not mean I possessed unlimited power. France remained a complicated kingdom of laws, privileges, institutions, provincial customs, and competing interests. But Versailles helped project something immensely powerful, the image of order. And political images can shape political reality. There was, of course, a cost. Versailles consumed enormous resources. Construction continued for more than half a century. Tens of thousands of workers could be involved across the Versailles projects during the most intense periods. Water alone became a constant engineering challenge. The fountains demanded enormous quantities of it. Canals, reservoirs, pumps, and ambitious hydraulic projects were created in attempts to satisfy my gardens, and still there was never enough water to operate every fountain freely whenever I wished. The palace itself continued expanding. New wings, stables, gardens, apartments, service buildings, the chapel. The final expenditure over my reign reached extraordinary levels. Yet even Versailles was not the greatest financial burden of my monarchy. War was far more destructive to royal finances. My armies fought repeatedly across Europe. The Dutch War, the War of the League of Augsburg, then the enormous War of the Spanish Succession. Those conflicts brought glory and exhaustion. By the final years of my reign, France had endured war, taxation, poor harvests, and suffering. The brilliant image of Versailles could not make those problems disappear. This is where the legend of the Sun King becomes dangerous. It is tempting to imagine that I simply built Versailles, gathered the nobles around me, and achieved absolute control over France. History was more complicated. The kingdom was too large. Its institutions were too old. Its privileges too deeply rooted. Nobles still possessed wealth and influence. Provincial elites still mattered. Churchmen, judges, financiers, officers and administrators all played roles in governing France. Versailles did not magically transform me into an all-powerful ruler, but it changed the relationship between monarchy and aristocracy. It made royal service more prestigious. It made access to me valuable. It placed court society under constant observation, and it turned etiquette into another language of political hierarchy. Most importantly, it made my person inseparable from government. At Versailles, power did not merely belong to an institution called the monarchy. Power had a face. Mine. I ruled France for 72 years, longer than any other French monarch. By the time I reached old age, many of the people I had loved were gone. My son died, then my grandson, then my great-grandson. One death followed another. Eventually, the heir to my throne was a small child, my great-grandson, the future Louis XV. Versailles remained magnificent. The mirrors still reflected candlelight. The fountains still rose. Courtiers still moved through rooms according to rank and ceremony. But I understood that magnificence could not defeat mortality. On September 1st, 1715, I died at Versailles. I was 76. The palace survived me, and in some ways, that was my greatest victory. Versailles became one of the most imitated royal residences in Europe. Other rulers looked toward France for architecture, fashion, ceremony, and court culture. My palace became a symbol of monarchy itself. But symbols can change. 74 years after my death, another king named Louis lived at Versailles. Louis XVI. In October 1789, during the French Revolution, crowds marched from Paris to the palace. The royal family was forced to leave Versailles. The court never returned. The place I had built to concentrate monarchy became a monument to a political world that had disappeared. Perhaps that is the final irony. I believed architecture could make authority visible. I was right. Versailles displayed royal power more brilliantly than almost any palace before it. But it also made royal excess visible. It became a symbol that admirers could celebrate and enemies could condemn. So when you walk through the Hall of Mirrors today, do not see only gold. Do not see only paintings, gardens, and fountains. Look more carefully. You are standing inside a machine built from ambition, ceremony, and human desire. I did not need every nobleman to love me. I needed them to watch me, to seek me, to depend upon my favor. And that was the true power of Versailles. I built a palace for the world to admire, but I built a court so France would revolve around its king.